What's up, fam? I'm Jazz, and this is Blackxecutive, a networking podcast for Black creative pros by Black creative pros, sharing inspirational stories, actionable advice, and giving away the game to succeed in your business and your career. Join the network where dreamers become doers and the aspiring become inspired. What's up, Blackxecutive fam, and welcome back to another episode of Season 2 of Blackxecutive Podcast. I'm your host, Jazz, and today we're talking to Martin Ekechukwu, CEO of
That's
What
right.
Works. Perfect. CEO of What Works, an advertising agency aiming to authentically represent the experiences of Black and Brown people in advertising across major brands. Martin has worked alongside A-list DefJam legends like Sean Diddy Combs and Janet Jackson, and advised major brands like Burger King, Nissan, and Doritos' Black Lives Matter campaign. Welcome to the show, Martin.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Thank you again for making time to talk with me today. I'm sure you're a very busy man. So on this show, we talk a lot about doing it for the culture. You literally are out here doing it for the culture. So I would love to spend some time diving into your career and your experiences navigating industries. And sometimes I'm sure often being the only Black and brown representation in the room.
That happens a lot, like a lot.
Yeah, it happens to me, and I am nowhere near that type of industry. So I cannot imagine how often you're having to push these conversations. So can you tell us a little bit about how you got started, all the way from Def Jam to where you are now?
Listen, my role and position and career has been literally circuitous. Like it's not been a straight line at all in any way. Immediately when I finished business school at Duke, I thought I was going to go into some sort of pharmaceutical role and ended up going into a product development and marketing strategy role over at Lexus and Toyota. And that kind of became my pathway into the marketing industry in general. I didn't necessarily know what I wanted to do, but that kind of started me off. And from there, I got introduced to a lot of incredible people that started opening up the aperture of what I could do with my career. I didn't necessarily know anything about marketing in general. I'm a scientist. I have a degree in microbiology. I was going to medicine. It's a whole nother story.
Wow.
So it's a massive left, right? Just went all the way left with this one. But after I had a bunch of experiences inside some really amazing consumer packaged goods companies, such as Dr. Pepper Snapple and Pabst Blue Ribbon and a bunch of others, just during my career, decided to go ahead and jump out, start my own company. Before this one I'm currently in, I'm on my third iteration of entrepreneurship. My first iteration was a tea company, we were a black owned, 100% black owned tea company, and we sourced all the teas from around the world.
Wow.
I blended it myself, I flavored it myself, I packaged it, I contracted everything. I traveled around the world. I found all the right stuff. I was on Dr. Oz. They said, "Oh, you're the tea expert." I was like, "Oh
Wow.
shit, I'm a tea expert." Awesome. So that became like the title that I had. I literally had it in my title of my signature, tea expert, after Dr. Oz gave it to me. So it was amazing. But that became like my real foray into entrepreneurship and into being an executive, because I necessarily know what it meant to be an executive. I just knew I wanted to be make a lot of money. So I'm like, well,
Right.
okay, I got to be like a CEO of something. But that really taught me how to manage people, manage processes, understand financials, understand capital raise, understand how to market product to consumers, identify the right ways that can help change consumer behavior. All of those things I learned in my first entrepreneurship role, and I kind of ebbed and flowed. After I sold that company, it kind of ebbed and flowed inside and outside of corporate America, really trying to decide what I wanted to do. Then I landed here. I started this company. And I'm not an entertainment guy. I've always been strategy, analytics the entire time. My business partner really was the one that brought me in here. He used to be the number two at Bad Boy back in the 90s. So
Wow.
he launched big. He launched
In his
everybody
prime.
in his
Yeah.
prime. It's like he was there. The stories are real. Like one day, if anybody has an opportunity, I'd love to kind of talk about it. But he has the most amazing stories. And he said, Martin, the challenge that he was seeing, because he's an executive in music, he could not speak brand. He couldn't speak marketing. He could speak music and culture. I couldn't necessarily speak music and culture. I could speak brand all day. So we thought that the offset within our skill sets made sense. And so from that, boom, first day, he's like, okay, we're gonna start working for Puff. It's like, whoa, what happened here? and we took one project after another. And then I started building repertoire of creating really dope campaigns that help to
Mm-hmm.
push brands into the cultural space, leveraging these influencers like the Puff, like the Janets and everybody else. And
Mm-hmm.
things started showing up after that, at that point. And, I just stood by my work. My work was always about delivering the best possible campaign that could change consumer behavior. And a lot of the times we were using music, pop culture, entertainment, and film to tell that story. And once we
Mm-hmm.
started doing that, things just started falling into place. And next thing you know, I'm here.
Wow, that's so interesting. And I love how like you found someone and y'all connected and leveraged your strengths and weaknesses to like fill in the gaps. And I feel like a lot of times when people think of creatives, they don't think about that like analytics side and the metrics and how much like we're tracking things and whatnot. And so it's fortunate that you're able to find someone like that. And I'm in a current role during my like day job where I'm like in content strategy. So it's half creative and also have those metrics and analytics and all that and trying to figure out conversion rates and everything. So that's great that you were able to find someone and like optimize your skills and also theirs.
Honestly, I think that the best creatives use data to help source their inspiration, right? Because you can
Mm-hmm.
have an amazing idea, but if the data is telling you, yeah, you might want to do this, but it's only going to affect like 0.1% of the population, you're like, okay, maybe I shouldn't do that one.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like data for me, but I never called myself a creative. I always called myself just a good executor. I can
Mm-hmm.
identify an idea and take it all the way through, and I would touch the beginnings of the idea. It wasn't until I got into this role that I really stretched my creativity and
Mm-hmm.
really put everything I had, everything I learned into place, into pocket, to where I started writing every concept. Then I started directing a few things, and I started actually being creative director on a couple projects, even in
Mm-hmm.
this role at WHTWRKS, because we're still a small boutique firm. Everyone does
Mm-hmm.
everything, but the one thing, the opportunity I've had is I really was able to dive into more creativity, which really I end up loving more than I thought I would.
Yes. I feel like at the heart, I know like this podcast is about Black creatives, but I really feel like everybody's creative at heart. You just have to find what it is
What
that
it
you're
is.
really passionate about and what really gets you going, and then you get to explore and kind of run with it. So I'm so glad that you like found that in yourself. I think that's an important part of like a life journey.
Yeah, well, but the
Mhm.
unfortunate part is that being Nigerian, I'm Nigerian and Czech, but being on the
Mhm.
Nigerian side, you don't necessarily embrace the arts and the
Mm.
creative part of
Mhm.
it, right? Unfortunately,
Mhm.
the cultural stereotype that rings true. And as a result, if you want to be a painter, they're like, painter, you want to be a painter? What? How will you feed your family with as a painter? How? What? Musician, rapper. You want to be a rapper now? Really? It's like that's the thing. So
Yeah.
you're not exactly embracing of that level of creativity to be able to go
Mhm.
after certain things. So, but if you're given the opportunity, you find people with my background would jump into it and do relatively well.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I'm glad you were able to explore that. And when I didn't know if you were Nigerian or not. I noticed your last name, and I do know a few people who are Nigerian. And so I was wondering. So,
And I was
but yeah.
born and raised in Nigeria.
Wow. Okay, so you were actually raised in Nigeria too. That's
Yeah.
pretty cool. Cool. When did you come over? What was the experience like?
Um, well, so my mother's Czech, my father's Nigerian, so I've
Mhm.
traveled back and forth between both continents and both countries
Mhm.
quite a bit. Moving to the States was a massive culture shock, to be absolutely honest, because
Yeah.
you come from a Nigeria, which is run and top to bottom by black people, just
Mhm.
period. And then, but even the Czech Republic wasn't like the United States was. Czech Republic was a lot more very tolerant, very open, even
Mm.
back in the 80s and the 90s. But then I moved to the South when I moved here, and that's when I was 11 years old, 11, almost 12
Mhm.
years old. Moved to Arkansas, of all places, the most homogenous place you could possibly move into. So it was a shock, massive shock.
I did notice on your LinkedIn, didn't you go to U of A?
I did. I went to
Yeah.
I was a Razorback, and so I went from I never left until I was graduated from college, and then I finally left the state for good, and I've never been back.
You know what? I do not blame you. I was born and raised in Little Rock, Arkansas, and I
No
also
way!
went to U
Wow.
of A. I went to U of A Little Rock, and I moved to Charlotte a little over a year ago to take my current full-time role. So I am from Arkansas, so I completely understand.
Yeah. Listen, all my line brothers are still in Arkansas. You know, a lot of my friends are still there. My family, we all left Arkansas. After I left,
Mhm.
it was done. My sister,
Yeah.
she's a physician living in Dallas, and I moved. I've been all over since, but
Mhm.
yeah, no one that I have family ties to besides my line brothers are in Arkansas.
Yeah, yeah, I don't blame you. My mom moved here when I left, and my brother moved to LA years ago. So yeah, I'm hoping that slowly everyone will leave. I mean, no shade to
Yeah.
Arkansas. I know a lot of my Arkansas
No, no,
fam
all of the
listen.
shade. No, no, all the shade to Arkansas. All the
You
shade.
like-
All of it. No, I'm not even taking that line. You're trying to play like the middle. All the shade to Arkansas for your little Tom Cotton over there. No, all the
Oh
shade
my gosh,
to
he's the worst.
every governor, every senator you've ever had, from Hutchinson to Huckabee to Cotton. All of y'all need to be shaded on all day long. I will talk this talk every day.
I feel that. I feel that so much. And like Cotton is, yeah, if we thought
The
BB,
worst.
yeah, like, yeah.
God.
That is, yeah. We're not gonna get politics on this show. I'm trying to keep it. I know I have listeners that are like, yeah, I'm here for the creators. I'm not, but yeah. So I'm glad that you got out. You got out, and I know it sounds like it was just that. When I say that, people are like, "Have you visited home?" I'm like, "Absolutely not. I don't plan
Right.
on going back anytime soon. I am out."
Ever, ever, ever.
Okay. So with all of that being said, so I'm sure throughout your career, and especially now knowing that, you spent some time in Arkansas, you definitely had to adjust quickly to being like one of the only people of color, the only Black person
Yep.
in different spaces. What has that looked like for your career and your growth?
Honestly, up until recently, I was actually not working on multicultural content. I've always was working on non-multiple content, so basically white people stuff the entire
Yeah.
time, right?
Hmm.
And so being in the room talking as a brand person in that position was certainly different and awkward. And a lot of times you would sit in those conversations, and they would be speaking of you as though you're not there. And speaking of people that look like you, and they don't obviously look like you, and they're creating
Hmm.
strategy around you to target Black people as though I was not there. So it's a kind of a different experience. And there are times when they would literally create strategy that had massive levels of microaggressions. I mean, like extreme levels of microaggressions, to the point to where me as the junior person in the room literally had to raise my hand and be like, that's not right. I don't care if I get fired, but that's just not right. No one should say this. No one should create this strategy. No one should put it out. And there was a brand that I was on, not to name any names, brand that I was on, where they were creating a drink strategy out of it. And the name was so offensive. I was like, yo, I didn't necessarily grow up here like as a child, but even I know, just a person of color, I'm like,
Hmm.
that's offensive. We should not be doing that. And they were like, it just became a thing. So that was like the initial, I guess, keyhole view into the rest of
Hmm.
my career, which is you're gonna be the only Black person in the room. You got to figure out the way to kind of code switch if you need to.
Hmm.
2020 has created a moment now where I don't even code switch anymore. I am
Yes.
who I am, where I am, and what I am. I speak that way.
Yes.
So 2019, 18, 17, like I got to figure out how to like make these white folks pay these money. Now it's like,
Right.
you're gonna give me my money, every
Right.
last dollar.
Yeah. I feel that. And I'm not code
So
switching a damn thing. I'm
yeah,
gonna say what I
but
said.
I said what I said. You better take it. And it's interesting because my mother is white, so it's like we have these honest conversations all the time about race and equality and equity. And my mom is all for like fuck white people. Just like
It's like she forgets that
that's
she's
my
also
mom.
white.
She's like fuck these white people. Like literally, we'll be there. She was what she would say.
Mhm.
I was like, yeah, mom, yeah.
I love it. I love it. She is like the first in true original ally. She's like, I'm not having
Yeah,
none of that.
true ally, absolutely.
Wow. So with that happening, like you having to navigate in these spaces, how did you build influence? Because clearly to like be on these brands, you had to build this reputation. Your personal brand speaks for itself. So how did you go about that?
Honestly, the work really spoke for itself. I'm only as good as the last thing that I did. So I really focused
Mm-hmm.
on over delivering. If I over deliver, the memory of that over delivering always sticks, and it always comes back with rewards in the end. And that's how we get a lot of new business now, is that we literally we take less margin in the right moments at the right time and invest in a particular project. Me, even personally, as a result of me over investing in personal projects, I've seen a lot of dividends come back to me, both financially and with new opportunities that I could pursue on my own, which is an exciting proposition. So my, sort of opinion is, if you really want to let your brand go far as possible, you've got to make sure that your brand is all about delivering results. Because nobody cares what color your skin is if you're delivering results. If you're making people billions of dollars, it's like, we should have Martin come back.
Yeah. Right.
All they see is green. So it's like everyone else that sees color. It's like, if you see green, you don't necessarily care where it's coming from. So that's what I end up doing. I try to make sure I make people money. If I make people money, I'm always in somebody's room.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I'm sure, like thinking about your campaign, that the campaign that you helped lead for Burger King with Black Lives Matter, and everything, you became a huge resource. And I hate that sometimes it takes for something to specifically happen about Black people for people in the room to realize, like, I should be listening and paying attention to what this person has to say, and see them as a valuable contributor. But I know that, like, having you in the room to be able to lead that strategy during this year, 2020, was phenomenal for them. So can you talk a little bit about your experience, like, leading these brands through 2020, everything from like COVID, the social injustices that have been happening in the community, and then of course this reality show that has been called an election that we just went through.
Reality show is real. I mean, listen, the challenge had been a lot of brands, I think, being fully honest, a lot of brands always have good intention. There are people that have good intentions inside the business that want to do right, but they're always concerned about the blowback from their audiences and the consumers, right? Because they know they have to kind of service a lot of people. It's the ones that say, we don't care, we'd rather lose the business and do what's right, that we've been helping the most, right? They're in brands that are still in the middle. They don't want to get involved. They just want to sell product X, and that's fine. The ones that are still looking for a pathway, actively want to do something, those are the ones we've worked with, and those are the ones that have done really, really well. Doritos is probably a perfect example. They wanted to do something. They were in the middle of a firestorm, but they were in the middle of a moment of making a decision. And that decision was, how do we show our desire to truly support the Black Lives Matter movement while not seeming like we're trying to sell chips? That's a very difficult place for us to be in. So we help them really navigate those water by giving them clear direction. You should say this, you should use this person, you should do it in this way. And really, you should let us just do the whole thing. Like, let us truly tell the story for you, as opposed to allowing, I should not say allowing, but accepting sort of their normal corporate direction. Because when you have corporate direction, it's like, oh, let's tone this down, let's tone that down. They were like, nope, you know what? You guys go for it. Take it all the way. And I have to give it to them. They really gave us the room to tell the story, and it ultimately paid a lot of dividends. They have a huge campaign that came out of it. They're doing a 2.0 and a 3.0 version from it. They're going to sell more chips as a result. But I really appreciated that sort of movement through it. And I hate to say that we sort of got more business out of the Black Lives Matter movement, but I'm happy that we were a Black agency that was proud to be a Black agency in that moment where agencies were being overlooked that were our size. They just were. They would go to their regular folks on an ongoing basis. So now it was, let's find a small Black agency that's 100% Black owned, or at least over 50% Black owned, that we can leverage to tell this story. And we were happily available to do it. Now, for COVID, the one thing we've been really focusing on around COVID is Black businesses overall have been absolutely destroyed because of COVID, right? From your hair salons to your small product businesses to oils to whatever it is. I live in Jersey, Harlem's right there. So it's like, every single business, the Black business that I knew, was struggling in some way. We're actually doing a full benefit concert shortly with Luke James, who's actually going to be raising money specifically for several restaurants and supporting Black businesses. We also
That's
launched
awesome.
a program. We also launched a program called Donate One Post earlier this year, just to be able to play our part, where we leveraged all the influencers that we knew, connected them with small businesses, and we helped to facilitate that relationship so that the influencer could post on behalf of the business, at least give them some level of awareness. We weren't promising anything like what are you going to get out of it, but we're like, listen, some noise is better than no noise, than anything at all, right? And we weren't taking any fee. We turned into a nonprofit, turned that business into a nonprofit, and ended up kind of working on its own. But through COVID, we've been really focusing on telling the story of how Black businesses are being affected, how brands should embrace Black businesses and give them the opportunity, open up their vendor application pools, get some more supply diversity opportunities inside the business, and even just tell the story of what's happening on the front line with Black essential workers at the same time. So we've been really, I guess, first and foremost, and I really have to give it up to BET, one of our biggest clients. They've really been truly supportive of all these stories. They've been allowing us to kind of go forth and truly push these brands in the right direction, and been supportive with on the media side. We help them, obviously close a lot of business there, but they've been like, listen, let's tell the story, tell these Black stories. Let's push these Black businesses into the forefront, give them some awareness drivers. So it's been really interesting kind of seeing it occur. But we've grown as a result of COVID and Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that also, that you're that y'all are experiencing growth in addition to helping these businesses grow. That it has been scary, the way that I guess the realization of how much something like COVID could ravish the Black community, from like the health side to business, and not to mention us being in so much of these low wage jobs and not being in a position to work from home, and being called out as essential workers and getting laid off. And it's been terrible. So I know that a lot of business owners, I'm sure, were very appreciative of that. And, hopefully we can recover. And a lot of the noise that we've been hearing lately, that we've been making as a community about like support Black business, actually understand your dollar, and how big your dollar is and how much effect and impact you can have. We can use that to pour back into our businesses and uplift them. So, and you even see initiatives. I ordered like Uber Eats last night, and Uber has like a Black owned restaurant section. And I was just like, these are the things that we need, the little statements about like, oh, we stand with Black lives. Nah, okay, whatever. We need these things that, like, how are you actually helping the community? How are you actually, helping some of these businesses that have been deeply impacted by this, and not just the business, but then those people in their lives, their families, and they can't provide for their families. And we're trying to make this progress for generational wealth and bringing in this income, and then you get set back like that. I cannot imagine, and my heart goes out to anyone who's been deeply impacted by COVID.
It's real. I mean, like I had a good conversation with my boy Kofi, who's a CMO of DoorDash, and he says they've poured in millions of dollars into supporting Black restaurants. But unfortunately, the reason why I believe the reason why Black people are at a disadvantage within times like this is because of really systemic issues that goes back 100 years or so. If you don't necessarily have the opportunity to create generational wealth from your great grandfather's home that he sold, that he ended up putting that money into the next house, and then your grandfather has a house that he sold, and now you have another house and you're able to get a loan. That was when generational wealth was built, like 100 years ago, during a massive expansion, and even during the 80s when loans were given out by the Bush organization. Bush won, then it gave all the money out in the Reagan era as well. So it's like, and as a result, and then you have healthcare disparities. So we unfortunately, it's a thin line. It's like one little thing will teeter people over. Fortunately, a lot of my friends, a lot of my people, they have enough resources to kind of make it through. But by and large, a lot of people don't. The people, what did it say, they're $600 away from going bankrupt? That's the number.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that, like, the average person. I heard another stat recently that like the average Black woman has $400 in her savings account, and we know that like we're still in a community where we have a lot of households that are led by Black mothers, and so that's disheartening. Also, you don't even have the savings, and people definitely sometimes neglect to remember how much redlining impacted us, you know, and that we never had the opportunity to really establish that wealth. So we're playing catch up, and, you know, we need reparations, but that's another, that's another long, yes, another long story on that. But glad to know that there are agencies that are in your position, and companies that are able to uplift other Black businesses are out here doing that, so that we can recover, and hopefully 2021 will be a better year. I keep joking that, like, you know, nothing's really changing. We're just saying it's 2021, you know, but the hope, we need that optimism. We need that.
We certainly do. I'm actually very optimistic about next year, only because I feel like once Joe Biden and Kamala actually get into the office, we're going to see a lot more money being poured into Black and brown communities.
Yes.
And if they really have a platform of building generational wealth in the Black community, we'll see more contracts going out to Black businesses. We'll see a lot more things starting to float out there. A lot of more relief loans will come out to Black businesses. So I'm really hoping that's the case, because it is. You're then going to see hopefully a growth in the from Black business overall, which ultimately impacts everybody and everyone's family. So that's what I'm hoping will happen in 21. Really
I'm hoping so too. I know the recent marijuana bill that didn't get past it made it through the Senate, not the House. We still don't know yet. But hoping that we can get some type of legislation that happen with that, and we can have some of these frivolous crimes expunged. And, you know, finally we can profit off of something we've been penalized and sent to jail for, and receive felonies, which affects, you know, housing and employment opportunities, and overall providing for your family. Have that wiped, and we can have some more of these street hustlers out here become legit entrepreneurs and sell what they know how to do.
Exactly.
All right. So Martin, I know we kind of touched on a lot of different parts of your career. Before we kind of get into our segment on actionable advice, can you talk a little bit about some of the things that you've really enjoyed the most, and the things that were kind of difficult and challenging for you?
Honestly, things I've enjoyed the most has been in this space of leading traditionally white-led brands and then helping them speak to people of color in a little more sensitive ways. I'm using that relevancy as a tool to help bring Black people into the fold. That's one thing I've really been enjoying the most, because people are really asking us for our opinion. You're really asking us for what's the right way to do it, as opposed to assuming it. I used to work for a company years ago, and they thought that the definition of multicultural marketing, or marketing to Black people of color, was, let's just add some people into the ad. Let's just sprinkle a couple of Black folks in there, and we'll call it multicultural. Oh, you know what, let's change this English language into Spanish. And boom, all of a sudden, it's now multicultural. No. So people are really asking us for advice, and really asking for our leadership in a lot of this stuff. So I'm really, really proud of that. The most challenging piece for me, honestly, has been my team has grown, like, significantly, and I'm happy for the growth. The challenge for me personally has been stepping back and letting people do their jobs. That's been like what it is, because I'm a very hands-on CEO. Like, I really do a lot of things, which kind of stifles people's ability to kind of really flex like they need to flex. And so it's been kind of me stepping back on things, like actively me saying, I have no idea what this is about. I don't want to know what it's about. You just do it and let me know how it goes.
Yeah.
So that's been kind of a challenge for me to do that, because if you've been a solopreneur for so many years, and then the last 3 years you see massive growth, you know, that's just what it is. And I have to now do people management, which is like good, but it's like, I don't want people manage. I don't know if I want people manage. I don't really hear about nothing. It's really selfish of me, but ultimately it's like, it's cool. It's totally cool. I enjoy, that's been a growth piece for me. My partners have been really very careful about that, by helping me kind of understand that. But yeah, that's been a challenge for me, is people management.
I understand that. I am in the early stages of managing in my career, and I have a small team of writers, and I feel you on that people management part. And
having to always put on that face and care and be invested sometimes when you're just like, I have to get XYZ done, do your job, get it done, but you don't have that luxury. So definitely not, I cannot imagine doing it on the scale of a CEO. But yeah, I feel you on that. And I love your point about um, people actually having our voices in the room to contribute to these conversations. I literally just did an episode on this because I am a content strategist. I am the only Black content strategist doing user interface writing at my company of 5,000 employees. And we own, I think we're at like number 9 as far as share of voice,
Wow.
like 2 spots below Disney. That's how many sites that we run. And so for my vertical, I'm over like 16 sites. And I'm constantly having to say, are we speaking to users in language they understand? No, we cannot just throw this in Google Translate. No, we cannot always just use 2-parent household because everyone doesn't come from a 2-parent household. We can't assume that our users have access to these resources. No, it's not okay to use that term, and so I'm constantly having these conversations, and luckily I'm in an environment where I'm allowed to like lead these D&I efforts without a lot of resistance and like be a part of that conversation. And so often you don't see that. And like you said, you just see it's like, oh, we threw a Black person on there. Or, whatever. We have someone holding a baby in the corner. So that's like appealing, but it's like, but why is the person holding the baby on the single mom article and she's Black or Hispanic? Nobody who's challenging that. So it's so important that we have people in the room now who are having these conversations and people who are actually listening and making changes.
Listen, my hope is that the change continues.
Yes.
My concern is that a lot of those announced changes potentially could have been lip service. That's my concern.
Yeah.
What we're gonna end up seeing, and I want to say the anniversary of George Floyd's murder is somewhere around June? May,
I think
June?
it was the end of May. I think it was like around Memorial Day. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna see. I call it now. Today's the 10th of December. A year from when that day comes around, people are gonna say, "What has changed?" It's been a year since he was murdered. What has changed on the corporate level? Everyone said this, and that. What has changed? Let us see your boardroom. And I'm advising brands now, make the changes today. In 6 months from now, when this happens, and all of a sudden you get called out, it's going to be a whole thing. It's going to be a boycott this, boycott that, Yo, make the changes now, make it unique and make it significant. That's my advice.
Yeah, that I was definitely, when all of that lip service was happening, I was definitely not the optimist that day. I was like, I want to see your board of directors. I want to see leadership. How many people of color are in senior leadership positions? What are you doing for the trickle down effect? Are you allowing associate people of color to have the opportunities to prove themselves so that they can get these management positions? Like all of that. I don't care about these statements that you're making. That's nice, but what are you doing that's actually impacting? Yes.
That's the truth. That's everybody wants to know about that. What are you doing? Period.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Reckoning Day is definitely going to come in May. Yeah. What I'm curious to see is for the companies that don't, what are we as a community going to do? Are we going to stop investing our Black dollars in these companies, or are we going to just like rant about it on Twitter for a week and then move on?
Both. We're going to do both. That's what we're going to do. We're going to rant about it, and then we're going to boycott, and we're going to rant about it and boycott, and then someone's going to say, you know what, I really still need this. You're going to go out and you're going to get it. That's what's going to happen. What I'm really hoping is that what I've seen happen is over the last several months, I've seen a lot of investment going to small businesses, a lot of small businesses that have a specific point of view, that are solving a problem for Black people. And I'm hoping that those things start to take off. And then the thing that we don't have, though, and I'm not quite sure if it's needed, but maybe it is, we need some level of platform that calls out all Black-owned businesses, period. Like the full Black Green Book, the Black Green Book, the Black Maps, that has everything on there, every business, what they do, and have that listed out in some sort of specific Black Google. We need a Black Google. So we need a Black Google that puts out Black Maps about Black businesses. That's what we need. When you do that, we'll be good.
I'm with it. I know there are some in the works. There was an episode I had for season 1. There's a guy named Antoine Davis. He has a platform called Spendify, and it highlights Black businesses. But I know it's still in its infancy, and they're doing a lot of testing. I think it's still almost in beta, but it is public.
Wow.
But it's happening. I
dope.
think we just need to collaborate. We need to get some unity. And one reason why I have this podcast is like we all need to connect, network, and
Yep.
know each other.
Facts.
People shouldn't be as inaccessible as they are, like for the work that we're
Facts.
trying to get done.
Facts. So true. So true.
All right, Martin, let's switch gears a bit and let's get into actionable advice. So, we have a lot of creatives who listen to this podcast who are mid-career or still trying to figure some things out, or they have an
Mhm.
idea, but they don't know how to get started. So, I like to kind of, have the opportunity to pick your brain a little bit about your process and what you do to give them a little bit of direction.
Of course.
Okay, so what is your daily workflow? What does that look like? Can you walk us through a day with Martin?
Wow, David Martin. I'm up by 7:30. I ravish the news from 7:30 to 8 o'clock on my phone. I literally read every article that I see. And it's because I need to understand what's happening in the world, both from business, politics, personal, finance, everything else. I read everything I possibly can. I'm dressed like I'm going, like we're at home, but I'm dressed like I'm going into the office every single day. I believe in that routine. That routine keeps me stable in what's going on. If I show up in sweatpants, I might go to sleep. So it's not going to happen. I'm literally get seated. I'm on several calls. I typically touch base with one of my associates to see what my day looks like. We do a quick touch base from the day before. We identify what's due for the rest of the week, and what's a hot topic, and what's a small topic, and what are other pieces that are about to happen that I need to focus on. As far as RFPs that we're receiving, responses that I need to have back to executives, any questions that are ultimately showing up that I've not yet addressed, and then I dive into my email to make sure I catch up on everything. I believe in every day clear my email, whatever it is, somehow clear it. It's like I've had up to 100 emails. Like by the end of the day, clear.
Oh my gosh!
Every text message, every text message responded to. Period. It's like that. I just believe in that. And that's how I keep myself organized. I have to respond to all these things, otherwise it lingers into the next day. Something like I haven't looked at it yet, about to, doing it in the morning. Whatever it is, a response is needed by the end of the day. I will typically order my team lunch. So this is actually my home office. My team comes into the home office, and we're all COVID safe and take tests, and we're all together. We order lunch, and during lunch, watching news and just catching up what's happened today. Then I'm literally back to back in meetings all day with clients, new projects, new alliances, new strategic partners, and any sort of production meetings that we need to go ahead and have on the books. And I'm usually at the beck and call of all my clients. So I'm typically first line of response. So they will call, I answer. So whatever I'm doing, I answer. And and I typically don't move from this seat until about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. And then I have my kids and my partner, and we're basically like, what are we eating for dinner? I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, after all of that, just like that's the last thing that is on my mind.
Because I cook for our family, so I'm the chef, I'm the resident chef, so I do all of it. So they come, so what are we eating for dinner? Like, and there's some days I just have no plan. I just don't have the plan. I have a plan for the day, which I'm happy about, but beyond that, nah.
Do you ever just order like something, or do you enjoy cooking? Like, I know some people like really love cooking. I don't understand those people. I think y'all are foreign, but some people love cooking.
You know, I love to cook. I mean, it's like I enjoy the process of cutting the vegetables, identifying the sauces, but I don't do like little things. I'm like everything fresh, herbs, veggies, literally everything to possibly get together and just get done. It's like I'm like that, make it from scratch, bottom up, all of it. And I enjoy that process. I really, really do. So yeah, but order in, yeah, but I also manage to order in as well. So,
okay.
I'm the highway to food, apparently.
Okay, you're a little bit human then. I was like, man, you're doing all this stuff, and then you like throwing down in the kitchen and shit. Like, I get tired and I'm ordering pizza immediately. We eat pizza at least once a week in this house.
I haven't had pizza in like months.
Oh my God! Wow. Wow. I need to step my game up. I have to do better. You have inspired me. I feel challenged. I have to do better.
Challenge, go for it.
Yeah, we even have a garden, and I'm like, still, I'll like just like grow veggies, cut them up, throw them in the freezer, and I'm like, not gonna cook that. Gonna go ahead.
Hilarious. I wish I could have, you're in North Carolina?
Yep, North Carolina.
Man, see, my ground is frozen. I can't even put anything down. I'm jealous that you have fresh stuff off the ground. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I would kill with the garden right now. Kill.
Oh man, yeah. I need some of that inspiration then. Next growing season, I'm gonna make more dishes from scratch because of you.
You have to. You have to.
All right, so tools. You dropped a few of them, like, well, generally that you work through during the day. What are some of your favorite tools that you use, whether it's like organization, creative work, inspiration, just anything?
My team believes in two tools and we use it religiously: Slack and Mondays. If Mondays.com keeps every project that we have absolutely clean, clear. We know where we are and everything. Tasks are assigned. We know who's doing what, when, where, and why. And we upload all sorts of responses over those RFPs and decks and sheets and whatever it is, all there. We're religious within our creative process using Google Docs. Allows us to kind of get in within the writing process and the ideation and really get that together, which I love. The second thing that we do, third thing rather, is Slack is our main form of communication. I personally hate email. I use it only for external clients, but normally we either use text messages between the teams on group text, or we use Slack for all communication. We have all kinds of channels. We have like maybe 30 channels in there right now for 30 projects that we're kind of looking at or have done, either current or did recently. Besides that, other tools that we use, I think it's like our main three ones that I absolutely cannot live without. And obviously email, Outlook, and Zoom. Zoom is like life.
Yeah.
Zoom is like talking. What's funny is that I'm trying to understand the culture around Zoom, because you can be on Zoom, talk, and then you can come off camera, and you can come back on camera, and you can go over. It's like, I'm trying to understand what's the rule about it. And then it's like, if you're the only one on camera, do you like come off camera? But if you're the meeting host and it's your meeting and you're on camera and no one else is on camera, do you then go off camera, or do you force everyone else? What's the etiquette around Zoom?
Right.
I understand.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm still trying to navigate. I usually take a cue from the person in the room, like how many people are in the room, and then the leadership that's in the room is going to determine if I'm keeping my camera on or not, and how engaged, what is the level of participation you need from me. You need me to be active, I'll keep my camera on, but if I'm just here to listen and observe, I'm not gonna keep my camera
What's funny is that I was on a client call before this one, and we were on Microsoft Teams, and my client, who was responding to their client's pitch. So basically, because the way BET works out, advertisers we're engaging with, and we're the creative team, so we were part of the conversation. And I was like, my client came off camera. I was like, I'm coming off camera too. And it was just the advertiser that was on the video, and I was like, how does she feel about being there by herself? And so I kind of waited it out, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna jump back in. So she's not by herself. Apparently, it was funny. It was funny. There's an etiquette that comes along with it.
Yeah, I think every time technology shifts, we're trying to figure out the etiquette. I'm still trying to figure out the etiquette for emojis. With certain things, I know professional stuff usually don't use them, but then if I see someone else use them, then I may use them. And then I'm trying to because I'm a writer, I'm all trying to figure out the punctuation. Is the emoji before or after the period, or
Actually, I thought that if you put an emoji after the response, that is the punctuation. You're not supposed to put one after, because it's kind of because what happens after the emoji? After the emoji, it's then new sentence, because that's the punctuation after it. It's you suck, frowny face, right? Then it's next line, then we do more, then we have another conversation. That is the punctuation. If you put a punctuation after the emoji, I feel like you're kind of a little anal retentive.
Oh my God. Well, maybe it's me, because I always add punctuation after, unless there's another sentence after the emoji. I can't figure it out. I need to throw it in one of my writing channels somewhere. It's y'all hash this out.
You basically just answered my question about, retentive. You have a writing tab. Done. That got me right there. Understood. I know
I
where you're
love
coming
what
from.
I do. I love what I do. I love my work.
I'm not mad at you. I'm not mad at you at all for that. I'm not mad at all.
All right. So, what is a problematic behavior in your workflow? So, and how have you solved for it? Because I feel like we all have these things that we do, and we have to figure out how to like not do them or to do them less to be efficient.
Problematic behavior in my workflow is
Mhm.
the ping on my phone. That's the most problematic
Mm.
behavior in my workflow.
Mhm.
I'm a slave to that little ping. So I've actually turned off all my notifications on my phone except to email and text messages. That's all I'm getting from now on.
Mhm.
And actually, that came out of watching The Social Dilemma. I was like, I'm
Mm.
kind of a little bitch to my phone. I need to stop doing this. So I literally took it off. That's massive problematic behavior. And also problematic behavior for me is jumping in to do stuff as opposed to, because I'm not patient with people a lot of the time. So
Mhm.
that lack of patience is something I've had to work on. And especially within business, when everything for me, let me back up a little bit, because our secret to our success is the fact that we do things faster and better than everybody else. And that becomes your differentiating factor.
Mhm.
Is, either you're cheaper and faster, or you're more expensive and slower, but this and that, whatever that matrix is you want to do. Our thing was that we're faster and we're better. That period. We turn things around quicker, and they're always better ideas. And so as a result of it, that became the culture, and that is the culture of what works. So when we're not responding fast enough, I'm like, that's not the culture. You're not in the culture. You got to get into it and get tighter on a lot of it, because our culture is faster, better. So
Yeah.
the minute that it's not faster, better, that starts to erode our culture. So, but you can always change your culture a little bit, but that was the culture that I built. But then again, I created that culture when it was just me. It's
Yeah.
no longer me anymore.
Yeah, I understand that. You really having to embody that, especially when it's a service-based business. Like, you people will let you slide a little bit when it's like a product on certain things,
Yep.
but when it's a service,
Mm-hmm.
like, nah, you gotta be held to that standard.
Yeah. Facts. And we are our worst critics. Like,
Mm,
literally, be like, see, I was gonna buy that from Pookie, but he messed up. So
yeah.
I'm gonna go buy it from this other person. We're so
Hmm.
hard if we're like late on one little thing. If something doesn't go
Yes.
right, it's like we're like, see, that's why I just shouldn't spend money with you in the first place. I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, we need to give each other a little bit more grace, because
a little
like
bit grace.
Walmart will mess up your stuff 111
And you will
times and
still
you
go
gonna
back.
still go.
Every single time you will go right back to Walmart with no issue. Amazon will
Yes.
deliver every package next door.
Yep.
You will not see your stuff, and you will
Yep.
still order from Amazon the same next week.
Yep.
I'm just
Yep.
saying.
We have to give each other more grace, especially if we want to see this growth in overall in our community business wise. We have to.
Facts. All facts.
Okay. So I'm assuming that you read a lot, because you said that you read a lot of articles.
Mhm.
Like you go through your news and everything. What is a current, past, or recommended read that you would like to share?
Oh man. Listen, I'll tell you my favorite book. My favorite book that I've ever read, which has really helped to establish my understanding of several things. It helped others that establish my understanding of the history of this country when it comes to entrepreneurship, when it comes to politics, and as well when it comes to the ability to develop and create wealth. And it's a odd book for me to recommend. It's called The Big Rich. And The Big Rich, the book is really about oil wealth and how oil wealth ultimately impacted the United States when it comes to politics. Because you had a bunch of people that had absolutely no business in doing anything except for just simply just trying to get rich quick by striking oil as a result of the big oil boom in Texas. And it really speaks to how a lot of the money out of Texas and how it impacts our country now, almost 70 years, 80 years later. I mean, Carnegie, Vanderbilt, all these people, the perils of the world, all that, how that oil money kind of came to pass. But it spoke to the risk taking of entrepreneurship and how you could literally lose it all one day and gain it all back in like a month later. And the ability to really network and find the right people to kind of help to prop yourself up. And also talked about how oil money and people that that people that were able to strike it rich weren't necessarily the smartest people. They just had the most hustle. And how that hustle what created that access to things that we want to have, and they influence politics, even though they weren't the smartest people. It's almost like what's happening right now with, you know, MAGA country. They're not necessarily always the most smartest people, but they have the loudest voice in the room. And these guys are the very loud in the room. So it kind of, it's a nice little segue between then to now. It's a great story, great book.
Wow. I noticed that though, when you talk to people who are like really successful and you ask book recommendations, it's never what you would expect. It's always like Cinderella. And then they break it down and it's like all these deep lessons. And it's like, what? Like, how did you, I guess that's why you are where you are, because you think this way, but it's like, wow.
Cool. It's a fascinating read. I recommend it to everybody. It's a fascinating read.
Awesome. We'll be linking that in the show notes for anyone who wants to pick that up. All right, so now we're about to get ready to wrap up. Can you let us know 3 to 5 actionable steps that you would tell a creative who is looking to say like, hey, I'm trying to get into entrepreneurship. I want to run with it. I'm trying to, you know, be an influential person in my industry. What are some things that they could do?
Don't do it. I mean, listen, I'll be real 100 with everybody. Entrepreneurship is not for everybody. It really isn't. If you're getting into entrepreneurship because you want to get rich, don't do it. If you want to get into entrepreneurship because you want to be your own boss, don't do it. It gives you none of those things. I'm not the richest because of entrepreneurship. I'm rich right now because of my people I'm around, because of what I'm getting from these people, because I'm doing what I love. Right. So the ability to do what you love is the richness that you receive. So that's one. Being your own boss, you'll never be your own boss. I mean, it just never will exist in life. There's always going to be someone that will report up to, whether it's me. If it wasn't, I don't have a board, but I have another founder. So I'll report to my other founder. If I have a client, I'm reporting to what the client wants. So it's like the only power you have as an entrepreneur is to say no. You can say no. You can say no to anything, but as an entrepreneur, you can definitely say no. You'll lose some money that day, but you can say no. I guess you can say no in a traditional corporate atmosphere as well, and you'll be fired, and then that will suck. But
yeah,
that's definitely kind of a different story. But if you have real entrepreneurship, I would say it's the dedication to the idea that's important. Is really having the commitment to the idea and the belief that what you're doing is better than everybody else's. Because if you believe that it's just okay, then don't do it. Because the amount of hurdles to get through to be successful in a business is literally like ridiculous. It's just there's just so many things you have to overcome, from the multiple no's and the discouragement and someone else stealing your idea, or you being overlooked, or it's the politics you have to play against. We had mountains of no until we got that one yes that opened doors to multiple yeses. So if you're not okay with rejection, you're probably not ready to be an entrepreneur. That's what it is.
Yes,
so if you're not okay with rejection, you have to be okay with rejection. You have to be okay with someone say, you suck, Martin. You don't know what you're doing, and I'm not going to give you the money. You have to, literally, if you say that to yourself in the morning every day, prepare yourself for what's going to happen the rest of the day, because that's what's going to happen every single day as an entrepreneur.
Yeah,
that literally is going to happen every single day. You have to be prepared for that bit of it. If you can endure and stick it out for about 3 to 4 years of a bunch of no's, year 5, you'll be fine. You will absolutely be fine. It's a 5-year journey to comfort. 3 years, 4 years. We were able to we got kind of comfortable and kind of dipped off and kind of comfortable, dipped off. Year 5, we're floating. We're floating. But before that, you literally have to almost quit several times. And we got super close. We were like, man, maybe we're just not doing the right things. Maybe not what it is. But then we had that one yes. That one yes was like, okay, then we're good. That one little yes helped us continue moving.
That's what you needed. That is so real and raw. I feel like a lot of times people just hear like entrepreneur stories and they're just like, oh, I'm ready for this. I want to be my own boss. You hear all these Instagram posts pretty much in your head, be your own boss, make your own decisions, like, all this stuff. And then, we're almost at the point now in the culture where it's like frowned upon if you don't want to be an entrepreneur. You know, it's like, oh, you don't want to own your own business. You want to be a slave. You want a slave, like key hotep hat. Like, you know, like it's like that. It gets extreme like that. And it's like everybody, and I always say, if you don't like, if everyone is their own boss and an entrepreneur, who works for you? Because you
exactly.
cannot like do everything yourself. You can try, but you'll run yourself ragged. Like someone has to work for you. So you can't just like throw dirt on people wanting to be an employee.
No, and I love employees. Please come work for me so I can do less.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Random note on that. And this is selfish. This is for my personal advice as a manager. With like you doing less and everything. How did you you saying that I can do less and everything, and you relinquish like that control and let your employee have that, and then you kind of go up so you can do higher level tasks. Did you feel like you were less effective when you no longer executed on tasks that you were used to executing on? Like, did you feel a way about it in any form? No.
Yeah, of course I felt a way. I felt a way because I felt like this was my thing and I'm not doing it anymore.
Yeah.
But the role changed, right? The role was more like make the final decision, make the call on what it needs to be, as opposed to work it from the beginning, the bottom, all the way to the top. So that's what I like now. Like my team, they do an exceptional job of, you know, when we have an RFP from a client, that they break it down, start in the ideation process, figure out all the pieces, do all the writing. Sometimes I don't even see the brief or read the brief. I come in and say, this sounds like a good idea. It doesn't matter what the brief is. It sounds like a good idea and what we should do. And they get into such a point where I'm like, okay, I make the final check off and say, these are the things we should adjust as a result of it, which honestly has helped me have a life.
Yeah.
Because our volume got so big, it was hard for me to just manage all the bits and pieces of it, because I was the main creative writer for all of these things. And so now that I'm not, it's amazing. I have my own special projects that I'm on, which takes a lot of time. But if I were to try to do both, we would really be stifled from a growth perspective. So to answer you, long way to answer your question, yes, I felt some kind of way initially, but then I was like, oh, it's actually not bad.
Yeah, I'm glad. I appreciate you sharing that, because I'm kind of struggling with that right now. Like I'm executing less and I'm more of a stakeholder in meetings, you know, making decisions. And I'm like, but I'm a writer. That's what I do. I write stuff, but I'm never writing anymore.
Yeah. Well, but I think, listen, like I said, I took on specific projects that nobody else is on but me. And that's actually bigger projects for the company that gives us much more visibility into things, as opposed to the day-to-day things that take up a lot of time. I was actually in a meeting earlier and they were like, why are you here and why are we talking about this with you? I was like, oh. So you have other things to do that have more, you know, that you're overpaid to be right here.
Yeah.
That's just so real. I was like, let me just back out of here right now. I was like, oh, okay, bye-bye.
Yeah.
So I took off.
Well,
but you really have to have a strong team that allows you and speaks to you like that, right? It says you should not be doing this. This is way past your pay grade for this conversation. Focus on things that are going to do this, and that, and that's what I'm really thankful for.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds like you've built a really strong team over there at WHTWRKS.
I have an exceptional team. I mean, we're still boutique. We're still small. We all trust each other. We're all listening to each other. We're a little family. So it's really amazing. And and people say we're a family all the time, but we kind of are.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've people. I've had, like, my director slept on my floor. I've had other team members literally sleep in our rooms. Like everything. It's like literally. It's like, house is open. Let's get this money. Let's really focus on the business.
Yeah, it's like actually a family. Yeah, I mean, it hits different when it actually is a family. You operate like a family, you know, just not more lip service.
Yeah, facts.
All right. So how do you think your work impacts the Black community? And I will say, I need to ask that question better if you think it does, because I've had some people tell me on the show, like, I don't think my work impacts the Black community. So if you think it does, how does it?
In one particular way, I feel one, yes, I do, but not the Black community per se. I think it impacts non-people of color and their perception of the Black community. Because we're able,
Mm.
because so we're able to, because sometimes we market outside of our people,
Mm-hmm.
and we also market, and while we market to our people, we know that they're not always the only audience. So we
Mm-hmm.
make sure that how we're perceived, how we're presented, does not in any way present us in a negative or caricature sort of style.
Mm-hmm.
And that we're not presenting stereotypes or leaning into topics or subjects that could in any way make us look crazy or stupid, because
Mm-hmm.
how we're being seen in the media, whether it's on BET, Viacom, whatever it is, how we're seen in the media is how others perceive us. So
Mm-hmm.
our job is to help to break down those stereotypes by presenting this in non-traditional manners. I hate to say
Mm-hmm.
non-traditional because Black people can be astronauts. We just don't necessarily have any, but we can be an astronaut. So by
Mm-hmm.
saying non-traditional means like we never had a Black person. No, probably we have, but we never heard of them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so I like to say, like, we're presenting Black people in roles that others are not aware of, more
Mm-hmm.
so. It's probably like the better way to kind of talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
So we really try to do that. We try to show the fact that Black folks are not a monolith, that we have multiple interests, multiple things. We span the gamut all the
Mm-hmm.
way. And things that we're interested, we can be filmmakers, actors, but we can also be NASA scientists and
Mm-hmm.
mathematicians and everything else beyond it.
Mm-hmm.
So we try to show the multiple aspects of Black people in all of the content that we create. And because we fully believe that our role right now is to not lean into the negative perceptions that Black people have in current media.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that is so true. I like all of that. I almost started shouting because that is on point, and you definitely hit the nail on the head. Like the way that other people see us. I know I was surprised to find out that like a lot of people who are not American born, when they come over, a lot of the misconceptions they have about Black culture came from TV. Like they watch a lot of our
Mhm,
TV, and I was like,
mhm.
what? And so they think that like when they see these stereotypes, and we're all like, yo, hey, what's up? And everybody's a thug and a criminal. They think that we're really like, they really think we're like that, and we consume it just as entertainment because we know we're not like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
But
yeah,
but other people who aren't in our community, they don't know. They don't
yeah,
know. And in places like Arkansas, where some people literally grow up never seeing a Black person,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
you know,
yeah.
they don't
That,
know.
listen, speaking of Arkansas, not to go back to that terrible state, um, but I was a professional tennis player, and I was a tennis player
Mm,
from the time I was a kid till I was in my 20s, and even in high school in Fayetteville, Arkansas, playing for the Fayetteville High
wow.
School team. We would play in Harrison, Arkansas. We're all familiar with
Whew.
Harrison,
Yeah.
right? And so, and for 4 years, I was on the varsity team from the time I was a freshman. And every year I would like not go to Harrison. I'm like, I'm not going to go there. And then last year I went and
Mhm.
like, fuck these people. I'm going here. I'm playing.
Yeah.
I'm playing the tennis over here. Whooped all
Mhm.
their little butts. I was so happy to whoop. I should have played this whole time and showed them what was up. But
Right.
they literally had never seen a Black person ever. And it's
Mhm.
unfortunate because for the people that I have actually met someone that is from Harrison, moved out of Harrison, and he did say that those stereotypes were really because they were just closed off from the world and they were just
Mm.
in their own little bubble and
Yeah.
didn't have access or ability to see people in a different light. And that's
Mhm.
what it boiled down to. So I'm
Mhm.
actually more sorry and sad for those
Mm.
people than anything else. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Some empathy. There's
yeah.
good to have empathy because the response is usually anger and
Hmm.
frustration. So
Hmm.
always room for empathy, true empathy. All
Facts.
right. Well, Martin, thank you. I really appreciate you like talking to me and sharing some advice for listeners and for me on my creative journey also. Where can people or how can they like follow your journey, or if they want to, like, I don't know if you're on any social, you seem pretty busy, so you might not be on anything, but how can people like
Yeah.
find you or contact you if they want to follow your journey?
Sure. Our website is active, whatworks.com. That's WHTWRKS.com. I used to be I still am on Instagram. I've completely switched to Twitter recently because I don't have time to create a really dope photo on Instagram anymore. So it's Martin Chilaka, the CHILAKA. That's my Twitter handle. So I'm on both, and I was at like 20-something thousand on Instagram. I'm like, I'm going to Twitter. I have like 300 people that follow me on Twitter. It's hilarious.
Wow, that is funny. You just walked away. That's gold for this generation, man. This social media star generation.
Like, nah, I'm out. I can't do it anymore. I can't. I'm so tired of looking for the right photo that does this. I'm like, fuck that. I'm not doing that. I post photos of my son only now. That's like every single photo is cute. So I'm like, I don't have to even think about it anymore.
Right. Kids give you a get jail-free card. It doesn't matter if their clothes are messy, face crazy. Like, it's cute. It's a kid. Kids are cute.
Yeah. So I'm not posting about me anymore. It's just the kids. I'm done. I'm done.
I feel that it's a lot to keep up with that culture. I took a time off like from my IG for a while too, because I was like, I can't keep taking pictures like this. I don't look like this every day. This is too much. Like, I don't.
I was on the same client call, and the client came on board. She says, "I've not changed shirts in 3 days." It's like, that's why you can't take photos, because you haven't changed. It's been 3 days in the same t-shirt. That's real talk. She's like, I just don't have time to choose a clothes. Like, I'm working and I'm sitting here. I can't choose clothes. I'm like,
Hey, I think that work from home really has us all doing all types of things. I was with her a few days ago. I was like, same shirts. Like, I don't know what else to wear. Like, I'm off camera wearing this shirt, whatever. I don't care, but had to stick to a routine like anymore. You. Right.
No kidding.
Thanks for watching Blackxecutive. Join the conversation in the comments below and be sure to like and subscribe. You can find a full list of all available podcast episodes on blackxecutive.com or wherever you stream. Until next time, keep aspiring to inspire.